President Biden has some big problems. The commander-in-chief limping towards the end of his first year in office, bruised and battered on pretty much every issue. And now voters are blaming him. 47% think the president's making inflation worse. And surging prices under his watch are taking a huge bite out of your wallet. It's going to cost households an extra $3,500 this year alone. So it's no wonder Democrats are being advised to dump the guy. There's growing speculation about Biden's true 2024 plans. He keeps telling people he will take another run, but some in the liberal media are telling him, sit it out. And Ari Fleischer thinks it would be the kiss of death for the Democratic Party if Biden runs again. Listen.
There is no chance he's running for re-election. He's going to be an unpopular president. He's going to be 80 after the November election next year. And the American people are just not going to go. And the Democrat Party aren't going to go for an 82-year-old candidate.
And now Kamala Harris is claiming she and Biden have not even talked about running for re-election because, you know, they're too focused on other issues. Dana Perino, do you believe her? Is this even conceivable?
It is conceivable, yes. But I think that what is interesting is that her instinct wasn't to say, absolutely, he should run again.
Right.
It's a record. We have an amazing record.
She left the door open.
We did what we said we were going to do. We have a lot more. There's so many ways that she could have said absolutely and been his biggest champion. And so she's like, actually, no. It was super awkward.
Yeah.
Super awkward. I think that they're ending this year on this is a Bloomberg headline, not just my words, on a very sour note. The things that they wanted to get done are not getting done. Their poll numbers are really low. They have incredible amounts of dysfunction within the party and disagreements. And a lot of them are blaming Joe Manchin just because he won't approve the number. But this bill actually had so many other things that they hadn't even solved yet. The immigration piece wasn't solved. The SALT taxes weren't solved. There was many other pieces of it that couldn't get past the fact that Joe Manchin said, I don't think that throwing a bunch more money into the system is a good way to help the American people. The inflation numbers, if you get 70% of the American people to agree that a president is not doing well on the issue that matters most to you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and Judge, $3,500 a year for the average family, that is a huge amount of money.
$3,500 for the same products that you had last year. You're not getting anything new. You're just spending more. And it's cutting into your savings and whatever plans you might have had to maybe take care of the kids, to maybe take a vacation. Everything is negative. But, you know, I have to tell you what's interesting about Kamala, Dana, when you were talking about her, is she said, you know, we haven't talked about it. We're not even in a year yet, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. And, you know, my question then is, well, what have you done about the pandemic that you can claim is good? I mean, there's nothing that they've done in these 11 months that is positive in any way, shape, or form. The only positive thing is Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is going to save the Democrats from themselves by not allowing them to do the Build Back Better bill, because that will then put the Democrats in a position where it's not going to be 69% of Americans who are upset with inflation. It's going to be 99% of the Americans.
Do you think, have you ever seen this early in a first term? Everybody, and not just the Democrats, but the mainstream media, basically tell the incumbent, you're done.
Well, I think, first of all, Ari Fleischer should be ashamed of himself for that elder abuse. I took it very personally.
You did?
I did. I mean, just he made it sound like Joe's stepping out of the grave to show up at the Oval Office every day.
But he's not coherent. That's what that was about, not his
He's only 8 months older than I am.
But you're quick. You're with us. Come on, you're different.
I think that what's happening seriously is a COVID malaise. I really believe that if we had been beating the disease this holiday season, people would be upbeat. I just heard from my second daughter. She's tested positive. She was at a party with 200 kids at Yale. It's something that preoccupies everybody. So everything, you know, with the cost of living going up, with the holiday season, the uncertainties of the disease and so forth, I think that the country's in a very sour mood, and Joe Biden, to his misfortune, is on the receiving end of that.
But he did say he was going to beat the virus. Does any of that fall to Joe Biden for setting those types of expectations?
Good question. Yes, it's not his fault that the Delta variant was not predicted. I understand that. There's two things he could have done. I think he made huge mistakes. By deciding to do this thing mandate the mask, mandate the vaccine, he created an adversarial relationship with the American public. It wasn't Trump against Biden. It was mandate against, I want to live my own life. So it was freedom versus, hey, back off. I get it. I know the rules. So all of a sudden he creates division there. The other thing he had is, remember, he got the $1.9 trillion passed. Even though Donald Trump gave you $800 billion in December, he had to have his $1.9. Okay, he got that. Larry Summers says that fueled inflation. Then in June, he gets a bipartisan victory. He refuses to take a bow. Instead, he says, I'm not going to pass one without the other. Everyone goes, excuse me? Those 19 Republicans who risk their political future, all of a sudden go, you just outed me. Then he goes, oh, I'm going to walk that back. And then he sat on it for 3 months. Then in comes the evacuation of Afghanistan, the biggest military disaster maybe ever in the history of America. And then he's in September with nothing passed. He panics, passes this, promised to do something different, can't deliver, knew he couldn't deliver because he didn't budge the two people that needed to budge, and that is Manchin and Sinema. So right now, he refused to take a bow in June, screwed up Afghanistan in July, and now we're in a disaster in the fall. Man-made disaster.
And the squad hates him now, too, because they didn't get what they want.
The progressives now can't stand him. So now his own party is fractured even more as a result of his passing the one, promising if you sign this one, we'll pass Build Back Better. No, he's not going to do it. He can't.
Does Build Back Better ever become law?
I think no.
No.
I think because they're not going to get it done before Christmas. And the longer anything big like that languishes, the more it can be attacked. So you're going to go home. People are going to have to deal with Omicron over the holiday. You're going to get back January. Is anybody in a good mood in January?
No.
Not that many people, except for me. I'll be very positive.
always
And I'll be
cheerful.
cheerful. But January is sort of like, oh, and then it gets cold, and people are going to dig their heels in. I do think there's one thing that the administration could have done differently on vaccines, and that is they should have done more on international distribution.
Yeah.
Because where are these variants coming from? Right, so one of the ways to deal with the pandemic is to try to squash it everywhere by getting everybody either vaccinated
still led
or
the
herd
world,
immunity.
though.
We did lead the world, but they could have done they could have done even more. Imagine if they would have done like a huge effort, a surge all around the world to get vaccines out there. One, in terms of diplomacy, instead of the Russians and the Chinese being able to use their vaccines, which are not effective, they could have had ours. And I think that looking back, that's something they should have done, but it's also something they probably could do now.
We could have bribed Central America with vax diplomacy. Just
Right.
give them a bunch of doses, say stop the caravans. See, Kamala should have thought of that.
Right.
Root
Come
causes.
on, Kamala.
Right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.